Hey guys, it's Baba and I'm back with another speed draw thing, and in this one we're going to be doing a little Mothman and some waffle orchids. I do have prints of this guy available as well as stickers, and I will put a link to those down in the description. Anyways, this is how he's going to end up looking, but let's go back to where I started with a really crappy sketch and how it got cleaned up. Now, I tell you guys quite a lot that I start off with really bad sketches, and I like to show you guys my bad sketches. They usually take me like under a minute, and they just give me the basic composition of where I want stuff, so it's kind of like a napkin drawing, where it doesn't really matter if it looks correct, it's just giving me the idea and the placement, and from that I can usually gauge if I'm gonna like the way that it looks or if I want to try something else, and it's a really quick way to figure out if I like the way something looks, and then as I go along with it, it evolves. But I know that the basic idea for it is something that I like because I've done this preliminary just like less than a minute sketch. And then everything after that is me doing it seriously and drawing it nicely. So we're going and drawing all my orchids in first. I'm getting that nice curve that I want around here. I've also got a lot of curves in the leaves that I want to get in. We're going to get a really nice swirl around into where he's hiding in the center, and he's just going to be peeking and poking out and just kind of hiding in there. We're also going to have him kind of grabbing onto the top of the flower stalk with the orchids, just kind of pulling it down like over him to try and hide in them. What I want to do with this as well is try and keep it to simple block colours with a little bit of gradient in them. So what I'm going to be doing is blocking these orchids down into like single flat colours, and then going and defining the petals by adding in slightly different colours and some gradients. So that's kind of the idea that I want to do with this. I don't want to do any kind of realistic shading in terms of having a light source or anything. We're just going to make it look nice and graphic with all of these really cool shapes and swirls and things. I don't think I do too much kind of simplistic stuff like this, but I am very interested in just like composition and blocks of colour and things. But I definitely wanted to do something like this where it's just going to be very obviously a design that would work on a t-shirt and just allow me to experiment with this kind of thing. Anyways, you can see what I've gone and done is I was going and doing all of the lines around the edges of my sketches, and then I just went and blocked it in, not quite quick because it's not the most interesting thing to watch. So we've got all our bases now for everything, and everything's kind of on its own separate layer so that I can fill everything in separately. So I've got the leaves, for example, on one layer, and then I've got the front orchids on one layer, the back orchids on another, and then Mothman on his own layer. His hands are also on another layer just over the top where they kind of curve over everything else, and everything's on its own layer so that it's easier for me to go and fill the colours in. You can see I'm just grabbing them and just chunking out these different shapes quite quick. So now what I'm doing is going and using a separate layer for these orchids to go and put these different little bits of shading in. So we're blocking in these top petals first with that gradient on, and the edges of that contrasting against the white is defining where these other petals are at the front, and I'm also going to be going and adding shading onto those. I'm also trying not to really include lines on this. What I am going to do though is kind of eat the background into it so that it kind of reads as just all separate shapes but doesn't really have lines to it. You can see I've gone and done it over these leaves at the bottom, and I'm going to eat into the rest of it more later as well. And the way that I'm doing that is just selecting the colour that I've got at the back and painting it over the top as though I am eating that into it, so that I don't have to delete what's underneath and potentially redo it if I don't like what I do. But what I'm going to do later, once I've done that, is to just go and select all this stuff that I've painted over the top. You can see me going and doing it now actually, and just defining the edges of things a little bit and turning it on and off as well. I will select that, and once everything is layered down into a flat design, I will just delete what is there, and then when it's put on a shirt, it will let the dark colour of the shirt come through, and it'll just be all of the light pieces. What I'm doing with these orchids as well when I'm going and putting these details on is kind of doing it each on its individual layer as I go and do a certain set of petals, and then I will merge it down once I'm happy with it so that all that shading is on one layer. You can see there's my lines over the top as well that I've just flipped on and off there as well. We're going to go and add more of that shading in. Just like this, we're going to put those petals in on these last few, and then we're going to add those bits in the center to make them stand out as well. I did actually think about using some of this hot pink that I've got in Mothman's eyes to put into the center of these orchids, but I thought, no, let's keep it sort of more towards a pastel-y color and let his pink just be like really bright in the center so that draws a bit more attention. I'm also going to be changing the colors on him a little bit later. You can see me kind of messing with the colors with a kind of correction layer. just over the top before, where I made everything a little bit more blue. I didn't really like the way it looked as much though. I kind of like the mossy greens in this, and the kind of greens and the pinks together I think look quite nice. I just think that Mothman needed a bit of a change of colour in his fur so that he stood out a little bit more. So I do end up editing the colours a tiny bit, a little bit later on. And also go in and put in a little bit of hard light or overlay maybe layer over the top to make the colours pop a little bit more, because it did feel like it needed some more blue, especially around the bottom in those greens, just to mirror the sort of bluish grey colour that we've got on Mothman. Anyways, I'm putting some more of, I guess, my lines on. Even though they're not lines, I'm just kind of eating away into the design that I've got to define it a little bit more. What I'm trying to be very careful of with this as well is you'll see me going and erasing some bits to not just make it a thick, complete outline around everything. So I'm trying to fade it out a little bit as it goes along, so the lines get a little bit thinner and looser as they go along, and we do just get a contrast between the colours that are like behind whatever is there. So we've got the darker colours of Mothman behind the orchids, and not just a big thick black outline between them to separate them. We do have a little bit of that, but it kind of fades out and just, you know, it just lets the colours sit next to each other as well. I'm also going to put in some detail on his little, I was going to say antlers, they are not antlers. They're not antlers. I can't remember the name for them right now. Antennae, that's them. I also wanted to bring in this kind of heart shape that I've got around his face. I think that looks really, really cute on Mothman, where it kind of points down into, I guess, where he'd have a proboscis if he was an actual moth. And bring that point just down the middle of his face. You can see I've got it rounded out as where he'd have like a little kind of round head there just on the sketch, but I'm trying not to define that too much because we want him to stay as just like a big chunk, because he doesn't really have like a separate head. He's just kind of he's like a big pair of shoulders with wings attached. He's a bit weird looking. Anyways, we can start to see how this is coming together a bit now. I'm just going to block in some more different colours on these leaves and redo them a bit because I don't like the initial colours that I went and put down on it. I also had to go at like putting some highlights on, but I really didn't like the way that that looked. I think it needs to be just nice and simple. We're also going to go and redo his eyes and put a little bit more shine into them and some more detail onto his fur so that he looks kind of a bit more fluffy. Pull these colours around a bit more, put some gradients in, and then put some little feathery doos on him. Isn't he cute? He's kind of like one of those silly little owls you see everywhere nowadays. He's also got a silly little like meow kind of mouth on him. Because I thought that looked kind of cute actually. I wasn't thinking about doing something like that initially, but I drew it in just messing about, and then I was like, oh no, it actually kind of works. I guess we're keeping that now then. So he's got his big glowy eyes, which we're going to make more glowy in a minute. I'm going to go and put a glow layer over the top of them and just boost them a whole lot, and bring it out a little bit as well, and just give him a lot more of a saturated pink in his eyes so that it works quite nicely with the rest of it, but also kind of projects out a little bit more. You can see me going and messing with the colours as well. I'm going to change the colour of Mothman so that he stands out a little bit more because he was kind of a dark value. I also messed about with bringing his wings kind of a bit more forward, but I think he looks better just being hidden behind everything. I'm also going to put a little bit of a gradient over the top, just with some different colours, and bring in some more kind of warmer colours around the top, and yellows into these orchids, and some more blues around the bottom. Because, I mean, I can't make anything without having a bunch of just hard light and overlay layers and yellows and blues on it to some degree. I just can't help myself. Like I said I would as well, I've gone and put a little bit more glow over his eyes, which I'm gonna go and clean up in a minute. I also really didn't like the way that wing was looking. I was trying to follow through with that curved shape that we get in the orchids, but it really wasn't just looking nice at all, so I left it as the leaf to kind of continue that shape around, since it's still reading okay. Now that I take that background off as well, you can see where all of those lines over the top are, where I'm kind of just dissecting the shapes a little bit, and as I turn them on and off, you can see that as well. And we're just going to finish a few more little details on this. And then once it's done, what I do is go and layer everything down. And then, like I said, select those lines that I've put over the top and just eat into the base with it that I've done. like so. So there we go, we've just got a flat kind of image like that, and it's just going to show through whatever colour is at the back. And then we're just going to crop everything down and we're done. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope this helped. If it did, give us a like, share if you think it'll help someone else, and subscribe for new videos on Fridays. There'll be links down in the description so you can get prints of this guy and stickers of him. There's prints on like all sorts of stuff. I kind of like the phone covers and the shirts though. I think those look really nice. There'll also be links to everywhere that I post stuff, as well as my commission info. I also stream on Twitch now if you guys want to come and watch me stream there. Here's a couple of links to some similar videos. I've also got another one where I've drawn a whole bunch of other cryptids all together, including Mothman and Dogman and Bigfoot and Squatch. I mean, Bigfoot is Squatch. And the Chupacabra. Time for watching, lads. Bye-bye.